Jesus Christ is such an extraordinary figure, and had such an impact in history, that many even doubt he has ever existed. But, did he? Did Jesus really exist? Are there historical sources, other than the New Testament, which prove that Jesus really existed? The first-century Jewish historian, Flavius Josephus, wrote about Jesus. About this time, there lived Jesus, a wise man, if, indeed, one ought to call him a man. For he was the achiever of extraordinary deeds and was a teacher of those who accepted the truth gladly. He won over many Jews, and many of the Gentiles. He was the Messiah. When he was indicted by the principal men among us, Pilate condemned him to be crucified. Those who had come to love him originally, did not cease to do so, for he appeared to them on the third day, restored to life, as the prophets of God had foretold these and countless other marvelous things about him. And the tribe of the Christians, so named after him, has not disappeared to this day. Thallus was a Samaritan historian, also from the 1st century, whose writings haven't survived to the present day. However, another writer, Julius Africanus, mentions the writings of Thallus, who tried to give a logical explanation for the 3-hour-long period of darkness, which occurred during Christ's crucifixion, proposing that a solar eclipse would be responsible for the phenomenon. However, Christ was crucified on Easter, during a full moon. There aren't eclipses in periods of full moon. Anyway, the point is that, Thallus testifies about the crucifixion of Jesus and the darkness which took place at that time. The British Museum has in its collection a letter called the Mara Bar Serapion letter, also written in the 1st century, around 73 AD, by a father to his imprisoned son. The father makes a comparison between the deaths of Socrates, Pythagoras and Jesus. What did the Jews gain by executing their wise king? Soon after that, their kingdom was destroyed. But Socrates didn't die forever. He lived on in Plato's teachings. Pythagoras didn't die either, he lived on. Neither did the wise king, Jesus, die forever. He lived on, in the teachings he left behind. Before we continue, don't forget to like this video. It costs you nothing, but it helps us a lot. Also, smash that button and subscribe to this channel. Help us share the good word about Jesus. Thank you so much for your support. The existence of Christ is also proven by those who didn't like him, nor liked his followers, the Christians. One of the earliest, and most informative references to Jesus, in a non-Christian source, appears in the works of Cornelius Tacitus, a Roman historian, writing about 115 to 117 AD. Tacitus made his comment about Christ, in the context of discussing Nero's blaming the Christians for the fire of Rome, in 64 AD, which Nero was rumored to have started himself. It reads, "Therefore, to end the rumor, Nero blamed as culprits, and punished with the worst refinements of cruelty a class of people, despised for their vices, whom the crowd calls Christians. Chrestus, the founder of the name, had undergone the death penalty, in the reign of Tiberius, by sentence of the procurator Pontius Pilate, and a pernicious superstition was contained for the moment, only to break out once more, not merely in Judea, the home of the disease, but in the capital itself, where all things horrible or shameful in the world, gather and prosper. The Greek satirist, Lucian, of Samosata, in the 2nd century AD, also wrote about Jesus. The Christians, you know, worship a man to this day, the distinguished person, who introduced their new rites, and was crucified on that account. You see, these misguided creatures start with the general conviction, that they are immortal for all time, which explains the contempt of death, and voluntary devotion, which are so common among them, and then it was impressed on them by their original lawgiver, that they are all brothers, from the moment when they are converted, and deny the Greek gods and worship the crucified sage, and live by his laws. All this they take quite on faith, with the result that they despise all worldly goods, regarding them merely as common property. There's a collection of rabbinical Jewish writings called the Talmud, and they constitute civil and religious rules, having been completed around 500 AD. Although Jesus is described negatively in the Talmud, we read, "On the eve of Passover, Yeshua of Nazareth was hanged, and for 40 days, news had been circulating that he would be stoned for practicing sorcery, deceiving, and leading Israel astray, and that everyone who could help in his defense should come to intercede for him. However, they found nothing in his defense, and they hung him on the eve of Passover." In conclusion, did Jesus really exist? Of course he did. There's plenty of evidence to prove that. His birth was real, his life was real, and his death on the cross was also very real. You might not believe him, but there's no denial that the historical Jesus is as real as you or me. Christ made his way into history and the world was never the same. There are hundreds of Bible prophecies in the Old Testament which foretell the coming of the Messiah. Yeshua, or Jesus, as most people know him, was predicted by the patriarchs of Israel, by Moses and by the holy prophets. Not only that, the Messiah can also be seen in the many messianic types and analogies found in the Hebrew Scriptures. Yeshua is sung in many psalms, he is foretold in the book of Job, he is represented in the anointed rock of Jacob, in the Passover lamb, in the manna in the desert, in the Ark of the Covenant and the tabernacle, in the red heifer, in the Jewish feasts, in the bronze serpent, in the fall of Jericho, in the staff of Aaron, in the ritual of the water and the lights, and much more. Find out the prophetic messianic connection between Old Testament personalities such as Isaac, Joseph, Moses, Joshua, David, Jonah, and Jesus. Now, available at Amazon, this must-read book, Yeshua, The Spirit of Prophecy, Jesus in the Prophecies of the Old Testament, by Harold Rockfellow. Get your copy now. Available in 3 versions, Kindle, paperback, and hardcover, with a bargain price. Bless your life, the life of your family, your friends and loved ones with a copy of this fascinating book, as a gift which blesses for eternity. A compact source of messianic knowledge, a pleasant read with a rich bibliography with over 330 references from the most reliable sources and the most renowned authors. Don't miss this chance. Get your copy now.